Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this session. My name is Jane Anduri, and I run the Dynamics Fraud Protection product here at Microsoft. Today, let's discuss how to protect omnichannel business from fraud and abuse during this time of COVID. This session is inspired by recent work we are doing with many omnichannel merchants and discussions we have been having and questions they ask. Here is the agenda. We'll see how 2 years of digital transformation got compressed into 2 months. We'll see how and why fraud protection is more important now than ever before. Finally, I'll show how Dynamics Fraud Protection product can help to overcome these challenges. COVID-19 has rapidly shifted our lives from outside to inside. Social distancing, working from home, required us to do tasks online. Kindergarten to college, education has moved online. Major focus of this task is how the day-to-day commerce we used to do at the brick-and-mortar locations has shifted to online commerce, or referenced as e-commerce. This is not only for the ease of use, but also to comply with local health directives. The shift to online commerce means businesses now have much larger online presence, which is a good thing. However, the e-commerce is encumbered with a lot of fraud and abuse. Many omni-channel merchants are now suddenly exposed to more fraud and abuse. Satya has concisely summarized this phenomena we are seeing in our recent quarterly financial results. 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. Satya's words explain the pattern that we are seeing. It's not only that the team's meeting minutes and the cloud usage are growing. Stats on the slide show that the e-commerce is growing at an astronomical pace. Let's look at the left graph. As seen in the weekly online shopping activity graph, the page views have grown almost 100% since beginnings of March. And the order placements have skyrocketed to a whopping 173%. These numbers, although large, are not just a niche to a single category or some categories, but changes are being seen across the board. Now let's look at the right graph. The order counts by category graph compares the percentage of growth from last year April to this year April. Let's look at the top few categories. Understandably, gaming and entertainment, which we all experience online predominantly, has grown significantly. But the most impactful changes have happened in hardware, sporting goods, vehicles and parts, food and beverages, which all have seen increases over 150%. As the categories have all been predominantly brick and mortar businesses, their shift to online reveals just how impactful these changes are going to be in the long run. As McKinsey said, e-commerce was already visibly eating into the sales at the physical store locations, but COVID-19 has been a catalyst for online shopping growth. Many believe life will not go back to where we were before, and this change that we are seeing is our new normal. In this new normal, businesses must learn to navigate online just as adeptly as they do in brick and mortar stores. As many of the many categories that we have just seen in the previous slide, let's choose about 4 of them to explain the continuum of adaptability to these circumstances. We have also picked these categories because we have first-hand information helping the customers in these categories. On the left side, most adaptable. On the right side, less adaptable. As we talked, gaming and entertainment is well versed in online shopping and has been for years. Because of these companies see an increased purchase volume and fraud during the holiday seasons and also on their new title launches. We know this through our flagship Xbot product and few gaming companies that we already helped with dynamics fraud protection. These firms have more experience with to adapt to increased traffic as well as increased fraud. Now let's go to the second category, groceries and household supplies, which have also been slowly seeing an online shift in the recent years as a differentiation offering to set them apart from their competition. Major companies like Kroger, Walmart, Costco, and all have launched services to help their consumers to buy online in this category. However, the smaller chains and stores are now seeing a large need to update their business model to adapt to this different climate. I know it is tricky to move sporting goods and apparel online because consumers need to try on and test the equipment in store. However, it's interesting that the statistics are showing that even this category has shown significant growth. Restaurants, on the other hand, which pride themselves on selling an unique in person experience over food, have now been forced to cater to curbside and pickup and delivery. While the experience will still and will be important for the future, the necessity of the food for survival, and we all need variety in food too, means a more robust online presence is required. From the point of view of adaptability, the right two categories are quickly trying to adapt to the new normal, as we talked about. As an online commerce, they're seeing more fraud and abuse than they're used to. This is a shock that e-commerce will give to all these merchants during this transition. That means with a similar number of sales, their revenue will be lower due to fraud losses, so it needs immediate attention. Let's a little bit deep dive why we need enhanced fraud protection. As we discussed, physical stores are closed and consumers still require products, so therefore they turn to ordering online. This means consumers need contactless payments and curbside pickup for many reasons. For example, if when you are purchasing a takeout at a restaurant or if you're ordering supplies at a store, consumers are wary of going inside the facility to swipe their card. Because of this concern, the store must provide them online and contactless payments. And this very thing interestingly changes the payment pattern from a card present transactions to card not present transactions, or referred to as CNP. And CNP changes the fraud liability posture of the retailer significantly. Let me show you how. CNP transactions are inherently more risky as the physical presence of the card is not needed, hence there will be more fraud pressure. In fact, e-commerce, the payment fraud amounts to 1 to 3% of revenues as opposed to less than a tenth of a percent in the brick and mortar commerce. Now, we'll consider two aspects. First, if there is fraud, who is liable? In CNP transaction, merchants of record are liable for the fraud, as opposed to in brick and mortar commerce, the issuing bank takes liability. Moreover, the penalties and the fees, all these magnify the cost to over 300%. That is, if you lost $1, that is equivalent to over a $3 loss. And now let's go to the second side. Even if there is no fraud and your good customers are sending making transactions, and when the transactions are sent to bank, will they get accepted? This is where the difference comes to. Typical acceptance rates of a CNP, card not present transactions, are very low as fund authorization declines are between 10 to 20% because of suspicion of fraud. And as opposed to about almost 0% within the card present transactions that we do at the brick and mortars. All in all, the fraud problem in CNP results in a fraud loss and a significant opportunity loss for merchants. You may be wondering, what do we do? This is where we can come and help with Dynamics 365 Fraud Protection product referred to as DFP. We have purchase protection capability that helps merchants achieve remarkable results in omnichannel purchase protection while transitioning to the online. DFP helps reduce fraud, it lowers wrongful rejects, and thereby reduces your operational costs. And we also increase your bank acceptance rate with our innovation, which I will talk about in a little bit. Dynamics 365 Fraud Protection, DFP, has been in market since last October, serving merchants to protect their purchase transactions. Microsoft uses this product to protect its own business, including Azure, Office, Xbox, our stores, and so on and so forth. And we process over 1 billion transactions through it every year. This is one of the differentiator, as we are the customers of our own product that we give to our customers. Let's go through the experience of integrating with the product. The very first thing to do is to connect the purchase transactions to our API and start sending the real-time transaction data. The real-time transaction data is centered around some of the entities that are in the graph, like user, product, address, payment instrument, devices, bank, and bank events, and so on and so forth. We have a very easy to use JSON-based API. And we have sample reference implementation for all major commerce platforms. And if you use Dynamics 365 Commerce Stack, you're out of box integrated based on the scenario. And most of the customers that we have been working lately can complete their integration within a day. Once integration is complete, every transaction that happens on your system, a real-time call is made to DFP, and the merchant gets an assessment back from us. Assessment is like a score, which is a probability of fraud. The assessments are scored by a very special breed adaptive AI models that work on Fraud Protection Network, a consortium of de-identified data across all the participating merchants. Any AI systems, we know that they learn from the data. And if the data is coming in every day, they get better every day. Provided you are learning every day, DFP learns every day based on the transactions it sees. We encourage every merchant to import some historical data so the models can be primed up for their intricacies and the specialities of their business scenarios. We can learn real time with this transaction data too. So technically, this step you may say, hey, this is not a required step, but we very much recommend this step, as model will be trained with your historical data to jumpstart the protection by the time a first real-time traffic shows up from your site. Technically, you have now finished the integration. Now, all your transactions, your real-time transactions, your uploaded historical transaction data, you can look them up in a very connected fashion, in a very intuitive experience. This experience gives a ton of insights into your transaction patterns. This is a very powerful feature, and many customers did not have this view from any of our competition. Now they use this experience not only for the fraud, but other scenarios. Remember, this is your data connected in your tenant for your use. So the next step is every business that onboards, whether it is, we saw the adaptability and the risk of the fraud and everything, every business that onboards is different. And each business have varied risk appetite. For example, if you're buying a digital product, entitlements can be reclaimed later. So you may want to take a little bit more risk because you can always reclaim the digital entitlement. But if you're shipping a physical good, once you ship it, technically you lost the product to fraud. So as I mentioned before, merchants need to configure their appetite. So this is what we call as you have to set up your policies for your business. These policies would soon look something like, what score do I accept the transaction? What score do I reject the transaction? And what score do I want to get some extra information from the customer, like an SMS challenge or something like that? If I have a product which has a high COGS, then I may want to do a manual review, just making sure this is going to a right customer. And you may be wondering, how can I come up with this score? numbers. We have a very good VFA, which is virtual fraud analyst experience, that recommends the score thresholds for different segments that you identify. This experience is very easy to use by analysts or business users, and I can say it is one of the best of its class in the industry. This is where you can quickly change your risk posture if you're suddenly seeing something in the market that you want to be protective of. And we also watch your transactions for anomalies round the clock and recommend right thresholds. Now it's time to sit back, relax, and watch the KPIs. And these KPIs we have chosen in such a way that what really the business cares about. Transaction volume. How many transactions am I doing? What is the bank acceptance rate I'm getting? Because it's online, it is more important. And what is the final approval rate, net approval rate am I seeing? How it is growing? And what is the chargeback rate? Is a fraud happening? How much is the chargeback rate coming? And this is where all the money, how exactly you are as abstracted by KPIs is going to give a very good picture. As I told before, there's one thing I want you to remember in this presentation is this. DFP has a very differentiated feature called Transaction Acceptance Booster. As the name suggests, it helps to boost the bank acceptance rates for merchants. For this, we work very closely with many banks. As a merchant once opts in for this feature, we can send some extra information like transaction fraud score, high level device and location details to the bank so that now banks can leverage this information and boost your acceptance rates. We, Microsoft, for our own business, have seen several $100 million of extra revenue with this higher acceptance rate. We have all this good work and innovation available to all the merchants through the DFP product. This recent quarterly earnings, Microsoft has referred to this work with American Express significantly. In the slide, you can see the transaction volumes that are sent to the bank as part of the feature, and what is the chargebacks rate, and look at how your bank acceptance rate is growing up since you opted in. With any online business or any business, you will have situations where your customer would ask these questions. Hey, why am I not able to purchase? Why am I getting this message? So on and so forth. We have a very snazzy customer support experience that your support agents can use along with your support experience. This experience is very easy to use and puts ample information at your fingertips. With this experience, merchant has access to the data from all the transactions. Remember the graph that we have seen before? From the customer transactions and all the account information that is collected. And customer agent can perform things like, hey, I want to safe list this customer and so on and so forth. There are many other things you could do. This support experience has been a big hit with our customers, as using this, they're able to improve their end customer satisfaction. Stay compliant. Not, I know we are covering this last almost, but not the least. As I mentioned, we at Microsoft use this product. I repeat it because I want you to know that we run our business through the Dynamics Fraud Protection. Microsoft takes customer privacy and security very seriously. And we do the same for our merchants and merchants' customer. Our infrastructure is ISO, SOC 2, high trust compliant. And whenever you do online channel business and you're collecting customer data under your EULA, user license agreement, there are privacy requirements like GDPR, CCPA that you need certain capabilities. Our product, Dynamics Fraud Protection, gives you all the required capabilities like how to attend to subject requests for export, delete, and all this so that you can stay compliant. All in all, if there's one slide I want you to take a snapshot of, this is the slide it's going to be. Dynamics Fraud Protection's purchase protection capability first does it does three things. It increases your revenues. How does it increase your revenue? We talked about we control the fraud a lot, and along with it, we also make sure that we decrease the wrongful rejects. That means your good customers are not getting rejected. And we just talked about how we increase bank acceptance rate. And since we are reducing the fraud losses, and also we are having you help you so that fewer transactions have to be manually reviewed, we reduce your operational expenses. And we do both of these things along with you being able to maintain that smooth shopping experience that you want to give to your customers. So here where we'll stop. I want to leave you with few links to the collateral to explore further. The first link is where you can visit our website for more information. And if you are facing similar situations and you want to discuss with some of our experts on your specific scenarios, you can do that during the Meet the Expert session, or you can also visit the contact DFP link and provide your information, and we'll promptly get in touch with you. There are more on-demand sessions on fraud protection here at Embass, and I want you to make sure that you check them out. Lastly, if you want to try our product to see how it can help you, you can always start a free trial. Follow that link. Okay, with that, I'll stop here and we'll open up some questions.
If fraud happens at one merchant and then the same card is used for transactions at other merchant, will the other merchant benefit from that?
Okay,
Using our product?
This is a very good question. As you remember, I talked briefly about Fraud Protection Network. So Fraud Protection Network brings the transactions, the fraudulent activity that is happening across the merchant in a de-identified way together into the consortium. And the models learn on this holistic data. So if a pattern or a particular element or a thing that I've seen on one merchant, it immediately learns to stop it from another merchant. So you will get the benefit. We call this as a community immunity.
That's a great phrase. I love it. Another question that is being asked is, you referred to the transaction acceptance booster and the collaboration with American Express. Could you talk a little bit more about that, how it works? How does it help acceptance increase?
Okay, so how we integrate with an issuing bank, it depends on the bank, because American Express has this API called Enhanced Authorization APIs, and different banks have got different means to do this. So what we do is, when a merchant opts in, we send the transaction score. Remember the assessment score that we're giving back to the merchant? We give that score. So we tell the riskiness of the transaction, what we think of the transaction. And also we give a very high level device data and the location data to the banks. And this data was available for the banks remember on the brick-and-mortar transaction, when you may swipe your card, the terminal sends this information to them. So now that the banks have this information in online channels, they don't get this. Now they can leverage this data along with the assessment that we give. They can leverage this and they can better score the transaction. And let me tell you, we Microsoft were amazed how much lift we got. And that's why we thought that we need to give it to the industry and for all our omnichannel merchants. That's how the feature works.
That's truly astounding, and the numbers speak for themselves. These are really huge improvements, so amazing. Another question that I'm getting is around, it's about AI. I would say everybody says they have AI. There are 30 other solutions in the market who all claim they have AI. How is Microsoft's DFP AI different? How is it better?
So let me tell you, I'll mention this in two ways. We have learned how to do AI here with our 3 to 4 years of experience of catering to Microsoft business. We have a very special breed, what we call as an adaptable AI, in which we have this long-term, short-term models. The long-term models are looking at the longer horizon so that they keep the memory of what are the fraudulent activity that is happening across the board. And the short-term models, they're trained within 45 minutes, actually. And they are looking at the upcoming fraud patterns or any brand new patterns that is showing. And we can roll out a new model within a 45 minutes duration. So the AI that we use, we often refer to as the AI that needs to be done for the real-time transaction, the most adaptable AI, the layered AI. And we also use a lot of deep learning techniques to how to identify a certain entity appropriately. So we use a combination of the technologies that works the best. And we optimize everything using operations research to give the best results for the customer. So all in all, we have several papers actually we have published in this area. If any one of you is interested, contact us. We'll be happy to give you a lot of literature in this, why our AI is a practical AI for this problem space.
Really, really fascinating. Thank you. I'm getting another question. This question is around the fraud protection network and how you explained in one of the earlier answers that you can connect incidents of fraud across different merchants so that everybody can benefit and protect themselves. But there's a question here, they are saying that all merchants do have some kind of network or consortium. How is DFP's consortium different?
Okay, so there are two things I will tell you. The most of the consortiums that you see, there are several claims that are being made. At least in our consortium, first, Microsoft is a part of the consortium itself. So as I told before, we have 1 billion transactions that you actually go through every year. And the merchants transactions, as the new merchants are coming up, this consortium size actually increases significantly. The knowledge that it embodies increases significantly. And we have a way in which we can look at the consortium performance, how it is tracking over day. And we have a continuous handling on a method that we call it as your consortium is better tomorrow than today. And the models and the governance make sure of that. Because we use our consortium for our business itself, we know how important it is for everybody's business.
Thank you. That really makes sense. Jay, this has been a very fascinating presentation, very informative. Thank you once again for taking the time and talking to us. And I would like to thank all the attendees. If you have any more questions, you obviously have the links there on the screen. Please reach out and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you once again and have a nice day.
Thank you.